So imagine a patient in front of you who's worried about passing on his auto-recessive condition to his children. So DNA constitutes our genetic code, and the genetic code we possess is divided into various sections called chromosomes. Within these chromosomes are much smaller sections of code called genes. And when you get an alteration in a gene, an alteration in the code in the gene, for example, that may manifest itself as a condition or a disease. So in an autosomal recessive condition, it requires an abnormal gene to be passed on to children, both from the mother and from the father, for that child to be affected by an autosomal recessive condition. You can be a carrier for a condition if you inherit either one abnormal gene from the mother or father, or another abnormal gene from the mother or father, in which case it's unlikely that you're going to develop that autosomal recessive condition.
I'm going to explain how a condition is inherited in an autosomal recessive way. We each have thousands of genes, and each gene is a bit like a recipe or an instruction for something about us. However, if a gene has a spelling mistake in it, a bit like having a spelling mistake in a recipe, then it can mean the gene doesn't work properly, the instruction doesn't work properly. These spelling mistakes can be called gene changes, and the technical term is a variant. We each have 2 copies of every gene. Most of the time, both copies of the genes are unaffected. They don't have any significant spelling mistakes in them. However, in an autosomal recessive condition, if somebody has 1 copy of a gene with a spelling mistake in it, they're what's called a healthy carrier. They generally don't have any features of the condition. They generally won't notice any health problems. If someone is affected with 2 copies of the gene, which both have a spelling mistake in them, they have an autosomal recessive condition. They develop the condition. So when 2 parents come together, if they're both carriers, they may not know they're carriers, but they will each pass on 1 copy of the gene to their child. If they both pass on the affected copy of the gene, then the child will have 2 affected copies of the gene, and they will develop the condition.